This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Left right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo, the podcast.
Hey, it's SVP and Russillo. Appreciate you checking out the podcast. J.R. Smith, a big topic of conversation as he goes nuts, and Cleveland wins Game 1. Brian Windhorst on that. Reaction to David Letterman saying so long, and we talk about our profession, not comparing it to Letterman, but what advice we give to those that want to try to crack this difficult field. My one big thing on Bryce Harper, I was wrong to be critical of him. He's still very young, but I think that his rep hurt him in getting run in a game against the Yankees, which really didn't make a ton of sense. Ryen also made up a game. It was fun. Lottery teams and potential trades. I vetoed, I think, all of them. Podcast starts now.
Now, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNradio.com.
It's SVP and Russillo. 101.40. We got no shot today.
No, I'm on weird cold medicine. Mike, was this your call to open the show with?
Pretty much, yeah.
And why is that? Tell everybody why you wanted to open up today with a happy.
Because it's the big outsider, Mike. Happy birthday today.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you. And Biggie Small's birthday. God rest him. So
Pour some out for Biggie and lift one up to the outsider. It's SVP and Russillo, ESPN Radio, news till 2:30. ESPN app as well. It's new. Progressive Insurance presents us. Subway Fresh Take Hotlines where our guests join us. You can tweet us, 1-800-Flowers.com, Twitter feed at SVP and Russillo. And for those of you watching on ESPN News, you're wondering, what are we wearing? Oh, nothing. Just awesome shirts that have our faces on them. That's all. Thanks to DollarShaveClub.com for the Christmas gift she sent that I just got yesterday because I didn't get. There were emails sent that instructed people that could get to me that if I didn't come get the stuff that was in the mailroom, it would be disposed of. So apparently there's been some stuff knocking about since Christmas time.
Right, and I think it's great that we spent time basically accusing other people of stealing stuff, which does happen here. Let's not kid ourselves. But we got a thing of dead flowers and Valentine candies that have been here since January.
That got eaten entirely yesterday.
Right, which is disgusting because they've been sitting around for months.
Yep.
I didn't eat one. Joke's on you guys. And we got our package from the New York City ESPN people, Teals. Grooming products are going to be even hotter Q2 here.
I don't know how that's possible, but apparently that's true.
And then the Dollar Shave Club guys, which, if you really look at what they've done, they've changed. And we're not doing this because they're a sponsor. The guys are awesome. They've changed the industry. You have major brands now trying to do the same thing that they're doing. And they sent us booze and these shirts with our faces on them that are – mine's disgusting. Like, they got an awful one of me. But the thing is they sent the shirts of you to me and vice versa, yet somehow this happened. We're wearing the faces of ourselves.
Yeah, because there's just no way that either one of us is going to walk around with a life-size head of the other on their own chest.
All right, let's not get too carried away that we're above doing something like that because we're actually doing it now.
Yeah, we are.
But I don't know how much I'll wear this in the winter, but I could see sleeves off, summer.
No doubt. And then I think with a bunch of them sent in, I think that they should be keepsakes. Then they should be coveted, and you should offer. How much money would you pay for this here?
Doesn't matter how much somebody offers, because the idea I'm going to go put this in the mail to some stranger is just,
True story.
I'd love to give away some stuff.
Just all right. That one isn't going to happen. And also shout out to Campbell. Your Campbell's helmet is very, very ripe.
I mean, not to be a jerk here, but this is kind of on you.
What is?
Like, all this stuff is sent to you, and then we go off on everybody else because I don't know what's going on, and then it's like Scott can't be bothered to check his mail the first 4 months of the year.
Yep, that's what happened.
Okay.
So who would you rather have you get the mail, Scott or me?
Still Scott.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because the Ansonia tax would have been levied, and you would have gotten a chapstick.
Half it used.
Yeah, it was smushed chapstick with Steve lip all over it.
Like, I don't like this flavor.
Here, use it. Thanks, everybody, for the stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
And to the folks that wanted me to clean out stuff from the mailroom, you're welcome. Done. Cleaned up. Just moved it into my office, which more and more does look like an episode of Hoarders. Brian Windhorst will call us 30 minutes from now. Obviously, we will ask him about the Cavaliers and the Hawks. There's some news today. DeMarre Carroll, the knee injury, which last night looked awful. Hyperextended knee, and you figure if this guy's down, then the Hawks have no chance. Turns out it's a bone bruise. So it's a bad news, good news situation. The bad news is obviously he was hurt last night. The good news is that it is not an injury that is season-ending. The MRI reveals no structural damage, but it is that bone bruise listed as day-to-day, so you wonder how quickly could he bounce back. A guy that has had some success with LeBron, although the difference, Ryan, between a playoff LeBron and regular season LeBron was evident last night, as LeBron in the second quarter was 7 of 9 with Carroll trying to check him, and he couldn't do anything with him.
Yeah, I mean, no one's looking at this as if anybody on Atlanta is the LeBron stopper, but you look at Atlanta, if they were healthy, if they still had Thabo, that's a body to throw at him. So that means if you can get 20 minutes with Thabo on LeBron, that's 20 less than Carroll has, so maybe the 15 to 20 minutes he'd be playing on LeBron, he's more fresh. But what I couldn't understand last night, even though we're looking at the Cavs win, that's basically all about J.R. Smith, who goes off for 17 of 20 points, and he just could not miss, is J.R. is so incredibly hot and basically wins this game last night for Cleveland. Because Kyrie's banged up. He's not the same. They end up benching him at the end of the game. But they keep Carroll before the injury on J.R. Smith, and then Millsap is stuck guarding LeBron. And I thought the most interesting part of this whole thing is that even though the Cavs win and LeBron has these great numbers, I don't understand why Atlanta would put Millsap on LeBron just because they're freaked out by J.R. Smith. And then LeBron was almost insulted that Millsap was on him, so they decided to dribble the ball out for 20 seconds like it was a pickup game. So it actually worked because LeBron was screwing up all these possessions. It was just an odd thing to see this great coach in Budenholzer make this mistake, and LeBron, the best player in the league, decide to just show off his ball handling drills.
I would never, ever, ever guard a ball screen involving LeBron James 40 feet from the basket. What's the purpose? That's
why I was laughing. Like, the announcers were great on this last night. The guys from TNT, they're going like, look, he's smiling at us.
Well, that Millsap, it was Horford went out there at the end of the game, and he's 30 feet from the bucket, and the lane's it's not open, it's wide open, and LeBron takes it down there and dunks. But look, they didn't win this game because LeBron's got 31. They won this game because J.R. Smith got as hot as you can get, 8 of 12 from three, scored 28 points, and God bless him. This is not a guy that you have to ask to shoot twice.
I just try to roll with the punches almost. Once the team pretty much starts closing out to you at bay, just try to, get in attack mode. At the same time, try to find my teammates. So it's kind of hard when you hitting shots that I was hitting to, try to pass the ball. We got to figure out a way.
That's him. That's his basketball epitaph.
He calls non-contested shots boring. He said that last night, too.
It's kind of hard to pass the ball. When you're as hot as he was, yeah. And these step-back contested threes are horrendous shots in theory. But when he's warm, this is what he can do. And then, of course, today it turns into more making fun of the Knicks. I looked this up. It was November 16th, as a matter of fact. He was 10 of 16 for 28 points against the Denver Nuggets. He did it in New York. It's just, it's not done in an echo chamber. It's done in oblivion because it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You've got LeBron James going for 31, but Smith, when this game was tight, is the one that gave him this working margin. And
LeBron was on the bench. Like, they get off to the start. So, yeah, look, Phil Jackson and the Knicks, because of this past year being a disaster, and I'm not telling you they're great, okay? So I just always want to remind everybody of that. But in a rebuilding process, to judge a 5-year experiment with his contract based on 1 year and say it's terrible now, fine, but it doesn't mean he's always going to be a failure. Maybe he will be. Maybe the guy doesn't travel at all, doesn't scout, doesn't know what he's doing. But J.R. Smith was the throw-in. Cleveland wanted Shumpert. What do you think? He was hurt. They didn't want J.R. Smith $6 million next year. And for the deal to work, LeBron had to say, clearly signing off on it. Griff, the GM's going, all right, let me talk with him. The Knicks let Griff talk to J.R. Smith before the trade. To be like, look, you got one shot at this. Because he's made a bunch of mistakes, and he's taken a ton of bad shots. So the J.R. Smith we've seen for 10, 11 years, like, that guy really exists. And the Knicks, at the time, and if you're a Knicks fan, you were psyched to get rid of that money next year. And now you're going to start playing this game where it's like, man, Phil got rid of Shump and JR. Like, none of you guys said that at the time. Not one of you. Shump was a free agent. He was hurt.
Of course, no one said it, but it becomes convenient to now. And with JR, he's capable of doing this, as he showed. And I laughed last week listening to the Le Batard interview with Chauncey where he said, when's the 4 for 18 game coming? And Chauncey just starts laughing. He said, oh, it's coming. And it might.
But now they need him so much with Kyrie.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, but see, that's the key. That's the key point. And this is what I was dismissive of when I picked Atlanta to win this series is when I think of Smith, I think of it's a two-headed coin. And what I fail to take into account is that when he's right, he's 28 last night. I mean, that's what he's capable of. There's a handful of guys that can get that warm, and he's one of them. So you liked Cleveland before the start of the series. I liked Atlanta, and it was more of a shrug. It wasn't the I'm right, Scott tone. No, don't tell me that. Don't, Stanford Steve, don't give me that shoulder shrug. I wasn't definitive. I just liked him. I wasn't yelling like I was with Steph Curry yesterday. I'm wrong, I think.
Well, at halftime, you had to feel terrible about your pick because it's tied, and Atlanta comes out and plays great.
They shot 58%. We're tied at 51. That's typically, analytically, that's a poor trend because 58% is not sustainable.
SVP and Russillo.
So Letterman had a massive audience last night, as you'd guess, and it was the last show. Did you watch?
Yeah, I caught the first 30 minutes or so. So it was great. I mean, the thing that's great about him is he was never trying to be funny. He just is funny. And all the quirky stuff, and, wasn't a huge Leno guy, and I know there's always that Letterman debate, but it always felt like Leno was trying, and Letterman, he's just sitting there, all these dumb things that he would do, like going out to interview people across the street and sitting there with kids, and I'll back you up on Jingle Bells. And he starts making these noises. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's just great. And then to be that admired by so many people in the profession, in show business, and for it to feel genuine and not just over the top, even though, look, it could be, but I don't know, man. That must be an awesome feeling to be that creative, to be that good at what you do, and to be that recognized for it.
I can't imagine. And as the Leno discussion goes, I mean, he's obviously, the man was massively successful. I don't know one single person, not one, who, if you ask the question, who do you prefer, Letterman to Leno, I never met a person who said, oh, yeah, Jay. And yet the numbers would come in, and I would think, well, I just don't – who's doing the ratings? I don't know. I never got it. But to see a guy that is famously not particularly comfortable with the idea of being adored, letting people tell him how much they adore him was cool. The whole end of the top 10 – the capacity to bring that type of star power together to do a one-liner, as many have pointed out, is an astonishing reach to have. And he was a huge Peyton Manning fan and a huge Colt fan, so that played well. And then what struck me is that as the Foo Fighters play Everlong again, which they played when he came back from heart surgery, and they just showed this montage that covers better than 3 decades in the business and the lunacy of it all, the stupidity of it all, the memorable bits. He's one of a tiny handful of people in our business that ever get to leave a dent like that. But you were talking about the business before the show started.
Yeah, and this is at a completely different level. Like, if you're sitting around going, I want to be the next Letterman, then how you'd even map that out, like, stuff just has to happen. But when I look at our business, which is different than what Letterman does, but I guess you could say, oh, it's still a talk show.
Way hard to do. We do 3 hours.
Yeah, right. And we don't have writers. So
might be a lot better if we did.
We get asked all the time, how do you do it? What do I need to do? And I feel bad when younger guys ask me for help because I'm just like, I don't really know what to tell you, man. I can tell you what not to do. But I was just thinking about it. And as many different channels as there are now, and I wonder if there's a bubble there for all the people that do this, but would you tell someone, granted, if you had a son who was 15 and was thinking about getting into this business, would you say go ahead and do it? And trying to remove the idea that you would be in a position to help him get advantages that other people wouldn't have.
I would encourage anyone in the cliched idea of advice to tell people to pursue passion, because that's real. You should ideally try to do something that you'd love, yes. But I would, in the same breath, and I tell people this all the time, when they say, I want to do this, or you meet young people in colleges that are trying to pursue this field. The best news that I can give you is that there isn't a GPS for how to get here. Because if there were, then every single person that I met prior to you would have the exact same coordinates, which would mean you're way at the end of the line. The best news and the worst news is that there isn't a path. It's just the path that you create. And so this is a long-winded way of saying, I'd encourage you to follow your passion, but you and I are the absolute shining example of anything can happen, yes?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Remember, the true miracles of this business. It didn't have to, you could argue, shouldn't have happened for either, and yet here we sit. Having said that, there are also people that show up at the Powerball offices and get to hold those giant cardboard checks to say, look, I won the lottery. I wouldn't tell you to try to make a career of playing lotto. You just have to get so insanely lucky. Sure, try to get in this business, but be prepared to meet the fate that is a far more likely outcome, which is that it might not be what you imagine.
The greatest thing about this job, and I do tell people that this is why going through all the stuff, and look, I work construction, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to go out and just physically burn yourself out and go, this is a hard job. And that's not the same. But when I failed in that, I didn't care. Like, if I didn't dig a dry well deep enough and my father yelled at me, like, I was going to get over that pretty quickly. But when you do this and you fail, like the first probably few jobs that I had, and I don't know that I was really armed with the ammunition to even go to battle, but you're like, that is something that I was a part of, and I don't feel like I got it done. And that hurts way more. But the best part of this, when it's right, is that the worst day of this job is not a bad day, okay? Oh, Favre retired again? All right, whatever. I got nothing left. I can come up with 7-8 minutes. Like, that's not that bad of a life. But I worry about the numbers and all the kids that I meet where you go, thousands of kids around the country graduating. And if you think of, like, the male, I want to be a star, well, if you can't act, you can't dance. You know, just like Letterman said, I can't sing, so I can be a talk show host. I think there's kind of like a sideline reporter. I can become famous, and it might be a lot easier to just be a sideline person and see where that goes, and maybe I'll be the next Aaron Andrews. But I don't know how the math works on this, because there are thousands and thousands of kids every year with these amazing degrees that are really expensive. And the industry is definitely different the last 5 years, Scott. And we're in here. There's a morning show for us, for NFL Network, for the MLB Network. Like, there's more live programming than ever before. But I don't know how sustainable any of that stuff is. And it just doesn't seem like the math ever works out that there's that many available jobs. So I don't know that I'd ever say, yes, get into that industry because it'll pay off. I'd say be ready to prepare yourself for the chance that it doesn't work.
The climate right now is such that the opportunity to be heard is easier than ever before. Social media, blogs, etc., give everybody a megaphone. The challenge is to be heard above the din. How do you cut through the noise? So it's the climate in our business right now is more challenging, yet more doors than ever before.
I think it feels closer to people than ever before.
I agree, because anyone can theoretically do it.
But I think people are completely unrealistic about what close really is.
Also true.
If you came up with a John Wall bruh meme, congrats, man. That's funny. But Disney's not offering a 5-year deal, you know?
Right.
And I think there's kind of this, well, I'm the one that came up with that awesome meme of LeBron. And you're like, yeah, man, it was funny. I laughed.
Right. Well, we're closer than ever to the Warhol idea that everyone gets their 15 minutes, and it's not even 15 minutes. You get your 15 seconds, or you get your 6 seconds of your Vine, which is, hey, everyone saw that and chuckled. To bring this all the way full circle back to Letterman, you're talking about one of the most iconic, lasting footprints that has been established in this business, and you and I are incredibly lucky. And yet I think, I don't speak for you, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. We both look at a guy like that with that type of creativity and talent and staying power with nothing but admiration and awe.
Yeah, that's why I'm actually even a little embarrassed that, we're talking about Letterman and then getting into what our business is, because I just
we're not comparing the two necessarily.
No, but you know what I mean.
Of course.
So, yes, I agree with you, and I'm just saying, well, hey, if you want to be the next Letterman or Van Pelt, guys, it's going to be real tough. Like, that's what we're not saying that.
We are not. Because he's the only one of him that there's ever been. They got a bunch of jokers like me lined up around the block. But salute to David Letterman. It was it was cool to see it. Cool to see the guy smile. And hopefully, I don't know. You wake up today and you wonder, what do you do now? Who knows?
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
SVP and Russillo.
ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst joins the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Brian, at halftime last night, it's 51-all. I look at the numbers, and the Hawks have shot 58%, and I thought, man, this is a problem. It's not going to be sustainable. Ultimately, Smith goes berserk in the third and fourth, and Atlanta wins game one. Of all the things that happened to Atlanta in the game, the Carroll injury notwithstanding, of all the things that played out in the game, what is the biggest concern for the Hawks as they move forward?
That even when DeMarre Carroll was, healthy and upright, they had no answer for LeBron James. He was scoring from the mid-range. He was scoring from long range. He was. They didn't foul him, but he was scoring from the interior. He had a very efficient game. That was one of the things the Bulls were able to keep him out of because of their defensive scheme. LeBron wasn't as efficient. He's got such a size advantage on Carroll and Kent Bazemore. And I said, but I don't mean height. I mean like overall just size. He can just put them in positions where he can move them around, and that's not something I think is easy to solve. That's going to be a challenge for them, no matter who they have out there. They just don't have it on their roster. But you're right, 58% in the first half, and they made 18 of their first 25 shots in the inside the 3-point line. Crazy numbers. The Cavs really had no answer for Jeff Teague or Dennis Schroeder defensively, and they were still not able to create separation. And that was a large part because LeBron was able to keep them in it with efficient scoring.
Brian, I thought that intensity was as high for any game that Atlanta's played in the playoffs, and I felt really the same way about Cleveland. I know Cleveland had some close games there with Chicago, but it felt like everybody was just finding a way to get through the finish line. Do you share that there was an urgency, at least in game one of this game, that maybe we haven't seen in the playoffs with these two teams yet?
Well, I think the Cavs were very much paying attention to Kyle Korver, and it's funny that this guy would be this guy who's been an underrated player and not even really a high-paid player for most of his career, but he's the focus point of an entire game plan. But if you watched how the Cavs played, they were constantly cognizant of where Korver was on the floor. They were giving him like a superstar treatment defensively, and I think that you could feel their defensive focus. And then obviously, I thought the Hawks they're a well-coached team. They always seem like they have a pretty good idea of what they're doing, and it was the most intense atmosphere I've ever been in Atlanta. I know that that's not setting a very high bar, but you got to realize it's the first conference finals game that's ever been played since the Hawks moved to Atlanta. So I was surprised at the mood in the atmosphere around the arena before the game. I was pleasantly surprised by the intensity of the game. I was glad to see that the Hawks didn't stop fighting when they got down. There's just high stakes at this point.
Okay, so let's talk about that part of the game. Brian Windhorst with us on ESPN Radio. JR goes crazy. LeBron comes back in, and they keep DeMarre Carroll on J.R. Smith. That leads to Millsap on LeBron. I love LeBron. I know how the numbers are. I'm not being one of those guys that's trying to find fault with him. But how does he get so ISO heavy when essentially him just dribbling the ball out and then trying to go with 5 seconds against Millsap and having all these awful offensive possessions, which almost led to them blowing the lead? How does that happen with a player that's as smart as LeBron and everybody sees that it's happening?
I know. I mean, we asked the question to him last night. Do you feel yourself getting isolation heavy, or do you not realize it until after the game? There was one period where you could tell he was so engaged with Millsap. In fact, they even, showed the replay on TNT where he was sort of, laughing at him and smiling at him, because he was getting up on him 25 or 30 feet from the basket. Well, guess what? The Cavs ended up with a shot clock violation on that play. So you may laugh at it and whatever, but Millsap got the job done. There were some crazy stats out of last night. LeBron had 3 separate times he ISO'd 3 consecutive possessions in the second half. The Cavs' offense last night, 35% of their offensive possessions were isolation possessions. That's the highest percentage of any game for any team for the entire season. LeBron had 18 isolation plays in total last night, second highest of this year, other than a game that Kobe had back in November when he was trying to, move up the scoring chart. So all of this stuff points to not smart, team-oriented basketball.
Brian, is there any fear in the Cleveland camp that J.R. Smith's great night will empower him to believe that he's the best player in the world?
I just left an interview with J.R. Smith, and he said he had one of the more interesting quotes I can remember. He said, "I don't like taking open shots. I'd much rather take contested shots because there's less pressure because people expect you to make open shots." And it's sort of, it's refreshing in its honesty, and there's some interesting psychology there, that he doesn't like the pressure of being expected to make a shot, and he sort of wants to dare the opposition to not guard him because he prefers it when he's not, when he's guarded. Very strange, and just it all goes into what I call the J.R. Smith experience. When you have J.R. Smith, you sign up for the reality that he can go 8 for 12 on threes, and the next game, go 1 for 12. That's just part of the deal.
And LeBron James said he signed up for that, something we will talk about a little bit later in the show. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
It's time for Scott Van Pelt's One Big Thing. One Big Thing. On ESPN Radio and ESPNradio.com.
We talk often about how LeBron James did the almost impossible. There were such gargantuan expectations it would be an impossibility for him to be what he was described to be. And I'll never forget reading that article about Bryce Harper, and it made it sound like he was some kind of outer space being. And so he arrives early and has a little bit of attitude. I mean, Cole Hamels famously hit him just because I guess he just didn't like him. And the reason it was unfair is because he was young. He's still 22 years old. He's younger than all these guys that the Cubs are bringing up that everyone's freaking out about. This young guy. He's still younger than all of them. And when you looked at his numbers in the past, I never thought he was awful because he wasn't. I just didn't think that he was great because he wasn't. But if you're patient and you shut up and you just let things play themselves out, let things bake, as an exec here once said, and he was right, you get what you got in the last month out of Bryce Harper, where the numbers are ridiculous. He's on base over 50% of the time, batting average of over 400, 10 homers, 22 RBIs. I mean, he's as hot as you can possibly be as a player, and he's showing you why so much was projected for him. I wonder, Ryan, if what happened last night when he got run by home plate umpire Marvin Hudson in a game against the Yankees that the Nationals won, I wonder how much of his rep is what led to what happened. Ball's called a strike. He steps out and says, "That's so bleeping bad." Matt Williams starts yelling. Now Hudson wants him in the dish. Harper goes in and he puts his foot in the dish. He's trying to get in the box, and Hudson runs him. Now, I don't know what was said other than that we had to bleep out the fact that he obviously cussed at him. You're not allowed to argue balls and strikes. So Hudson gave him some rope there. I just wonder if it's the rep of the guy, because if you ask him to get back in, he's trying to get back in the box, then what are you running him for in that position, in that case?
Yeah, and I was reading last night about this after I watched it. I guess this ump does not have a history of running people pretty quickly. So, yeah, I think that's all related, man. I think it has a lot to do with Harper. I think the first impression of Harper was a brash kid that was overrated, which, again, I think coming up at 19 years old, he wasn't terrible. He played 139 games, 22 homers,
not at all.
270.
Not at all.
60 RBIs. The great thing now about him is his walk to strikeout ratio is basically even this season. And when you see a number like that,
for a power hitter like this, yeah.
So this guy's figuring it out a little bit. So, yeah, I think the first impression with him, some warranted, some also because nobody likes young, successful people. I'm convinced of it. Nobody likes anybody that's young and good at what they do.
That was at the crux of when you did the Olbermann show about the draft.
So
well done, by the way.
And if there's anything we've learned about baseball players, and I don't know how it's gotten even more out of control in the last 5 years, the baseball community, they're not going to be real open to the idea of young, brash, face paint guy, just killer hair.
Boy, that hair's
right?
good.
And you're right, the Sports Illustrated article builds him up, but nobody's going to read the Sports Illustrated article if you go, maybe 20 homers, athletic outfield, plays aggressive. No, it has to be, can he be the best baseball player ever? Because that's always the hope and the excitement with someone we've never seen do it before.
And so to think it would happen immediately was irresponsible for anybody. So I think that's why I would frame it. Now, I always said he's a good baseball player. He's just not some superstar.
He's not the best player in the game, and that's what people wanted him.
Not the face of brands and franchises. And now you see it and you go, wow, look at him, and then you realize, oh, he is still just 22. But I just wonder how much of that was in play last night because, again, he's stepping into the box as instructed, and he gets run. Harper after the game on that.
I was just taking my time, and once I put my foot back in the box, I said, this is where I was. He rung me. He tossed me. So, I mean, I don't think 40,000 people came to watch him up tonight. Plain and simple.
And that's true. That's true. He definitely used some bad words.
The thing about it getting back in the box, though, was Harper stepping in as little as he possibly could to kind of make a point that, hey, I'm getting back into the box.
Yes,
you're yelling
maybe.
at me. So,
but look,
this thing was,
hustles up there. All right, I'm trying to get in. What do you want from me?
Yeah, he's not hustling up there, though. I think he's...
he's walking. What's he supposed to do? Like step in there like a little crazy little leaguer, like with his bat waving around? I'm ready to go.
I think both guys had decided what was going to happen before it was even him getting back into the box. But I think your general point is right on, man, that it's Harper. It's a carryover, the impression that he made, and there's just not a lot of people that like him.
Yeah, I just think in that spot against that team, that game shouldn't have happened.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo.
Ryan made a game up. What's it called, Ryan?
All right, it is called Fantasy/Daily Fantasy/Fake Lottery Trades NBA style. Are you ready?
Respect the game.
Here are the rules. I'm going to offer up one of the picks now since the lottery set 2 days ago. A real pick. A little music, please, outsider. And then I'm going to ask you this pick for this current NBA player. The salary matters in the context of what you're investing in the player you're trading for, but not for salary rules for trades. You got it?
Kind of. So wait, do I need to know?
I have all the stuff.
Do I need it? Okay. No. I just theoretically, it's more just about would you trade this player for that thing?
Right. So it's this draft this year. So you have to kind of think, like pull up a mock draft for the first round if you want to. So you have to think, okay, well, this pick, who could I get potentially? So there's some really fun ones, and there's some ones that are a little bit later, and you have to really put on your GM hat. Are you ready?
Where's my GM hat? It's right next to the picture of the T-shirt with my face on it.
Good. All right, Lakers. Glory days are here again. The number 2 pick. Would you, though, if you were the Lakers, trade that to the Knicks for Melo?
Coming out guns blazing.
Yeah.
Fire. So get to team up Melo with Kobe. And I don't know, Randall. We got a little young piece there. We made who knows.
Jordan Clarkson, nice player.
He was not bad this year. He tried hard.
Good.
Yeah.
No.
No, I watched him play.
Clarkson's good.
I don't want to. This will turn into a did he just score points in games that weren't close? None of that matters. You like him. I agree, but that's not the question. No, I wouldn't do that.
If you were LA,
nope.
Would you do it if you were the Knicks?
Hell yeah.
You would. So
I'd have 2 and 4.
Right, and you'd be moving off $23 million, then $25 million, then $26 million, then $28 million the next 4 years.
If I'm the Knicks, I'd do it in a heartbeat, in a New York minute.
Right, because how much worse would it be?
Huh?
Yeah, I think the only person who would want to do that would be Kobe, because he'd go, yeah, great, a win-now guy. But I wouldn't do it if I were LA. I would do it if you were the Knicks, so I agree. Okay, a little more difficult here. If you're Charlotte, sitting there with a number 9 pick, would you trade the 9th pick in this year's draft for 1 year of Roy Hibbert and his remaining contract of $15 million?
Okay. Are you saying? But I mean, I could theoretically keep him beyond that.
Yeah, you'd have his bird rights. You'd re-sign him. That's if you want to.
I'm not getting anybody at 9 that's as good as him. I'd do it if I'm the Hornets. I'd do it in a second.
That's a tough one because I feel like Hibbert is so outdated now. I just think that he's an outdated guy, even though a few years ago plenty of teams would have wanted him.
Him and Al up front.
You get to help Al a little.
Him and Al up front. Okay, or let's see, who am I going to get? Who am I going to get at 9? Let me give you a mock and like who
Trey Lyles, Trey Mamba Lyles.
Cool. How many years is he away from helping you?
I wouldn't do it, but I don't think you're crazy for doing it. I like that you did that. I like that you went with 9 and you go, I'll take Roy Hibbert for a year and see if we have something because at least I know he can play.
I'm remembering when you gave America 6 through 10 from the draft where we just Jan Vesely at 6.
He could move, man. Jan Vesely in
Remember
transition? I'm not lying.
Him and Ovechkin, they just picked.
Bad fit.
They were thinking about him and those two and Adams Morgan just getting after it. Late night slices. Come on.
Okay, so fake lottery trades for current NBA players.
I like this game.
All right, how about the Knicks? Let's do the Knicks again.
Uh-huh.
The Knicks, would you trade the number 4, outside of Perks, right up. Would you trade the number 4 pick in this year's draft that the Knicks have for Derek Favors, the Utah Jazz?
No.
You are on crack, son.
That's the first time that I've been accused of that today. Today. Well,
so you think you just went ahead and said, who am I getting at 9 that's better than Hibbert, but then at 4, you think you're going to get a guy that's better than who Favors was this last year and likely will be moving forward. I know Favors was slow, and I know everybody thinks I love him way too much, which was accurate the first few years, but Derek Favors is a really good basketball player now.
I understand that. I'm New York. I sell people on happiness down the road that's vague.
Okay, so you think you can sell Moutier and what he could be better than a young player that's under a great contract in Favors the next.
No, we're gonna go for the next skittish Vili, the Porzingis guy that you love. We're going after him.
Zinger?
We're gonna go for the Zinger.
He's good.
Look, I mean, what's Favors' ceiling? Who do you think he can be? Give me a comparison.
Jesus.
So far this segment, we've had a basketball player compared to Jesus, and I've been accused of smoking the rock. Who could he be for serious? Who do you think he can be?
Oh, well, that's the comp I have. My notes.
So you'd do it, no questions asked.
I would do it because I really am a fan of, and this is where you can get burned sometimes, but can the guy do it? Has he shown us that he can do it? Yes, he can. And
we want DeMarcus Cousins at 4.
Oh, you want DeMarcus Cousins? Yeah. Well, apparently no one's allowed to trade him because the owner's saying, how about Vlade coming after George Karl the other day? Like, that team, keep doing your thing.
Yeah, you guys have fun at the circus, man.
Okay, 2 more. These get a little more interesting.
Wait a minute, I'm looking at Favors, and then
he was one of the most efficient power forwards in the NBA this year, and now he's even better because
we could get it right, Scott, here.
The Stifle Tower. Oh, wait a minute, Favors isn't good?
No. I'm taking inventory here. I don't want to give the wrong answer. I can be wrong and then give the right answer. And the right answer.
I might be wrong about Hibbert.
I think you moved at 4. No, you're not getting anybody at 4 who's better than Favors right now.
Stanford Steve, what do you say?
You're the Knicks fan.
No, Pelicans fan.
I forget. What day of the week is it?
Thursday.
Okay, then you're a Pelican fan.
I like Favors.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
You favorite.
I gave the wrong answer. Now I gave the right answer.
2 more. You're the Nets. You're not necessarily building through the draft the next few years.
What are we doing?
I don't know, man. Not scouting a lot. You don't have to worry about it. Hey, you got the 29th pick this year. Would you trade it for Evan Turner?
The 29th pick?
Right? Yeah.
Sure.
That one didn't get you excited?
Well, if you're not getting a guy at 29 who's better than Turner, like everyone can make fun of him and all, and I know he wasn't good at 3, but for the 29, yeah, come on.
Turner's the weirdest player in the NBA.
People hate him.
Because you look at the stats, you go, how incredible are these well-rounded, does a little bit of everything. But then when you watch him, you go, I don't know that you're winning any games with him. But I don't even know if I want to answer it, and I came up with a question. Take a shot, stash a guy overseas for 2 years so if you can get a little bit more. You're right. Whoever you get at 29 is not likely he's better. He's a better player than Turner.
The greater than sign is pointed at him, Turner. What's the last one?
Stanford Steve wants in on that so bad.
No, we have a couple back here.
Oh, you do? Okay, I'll move a little quicker here. All right, this is my headliner. Build to a finish here. The number 1 pick, the T-Wolves. Would you trade it to yourself for Andrew Wiggins? No, just kidding. Number 1 pick, T-Wolves. Would you trade it for Andre Drummond of the Pistons?
Ooh. He's quite capable, but he's not. His ceiling's not where Towns is. Towns. What else do I get? Just him? Head up.
That's the game, bro. Don't start changing the rules.
I asked what I got. I get Drummond and only Drummond?
Yeah, you get Drummond.
I thought about it for 6 seconds and said, ooh, and then I said, no. Thanks for calling.
I agree with you.
Stanford Steve, what do you got?
We got you're the Jazz at 12.
I love that. The Jazz are in the mix today.
Would you trade the 12th pick for Derrick Rose?
Oh, man. They need a point guard so bad, too. You could screw up everything. They don't need the 12th pick. They don't need another young player at all. They should be looking to trade as much as their team.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Okay, but it's 40-something million to Rose the next 2 years.
The money is. I wasn't worried about the money. I'm just worried about the draft pick for the player.
No, we're worried about the money and what the contract is, not for the trade rules.
They got GMs for that.
I'm going to say no. I'm high. I'm picking the Jazz to be in the playoffs next year. I'm high on the Jazz.
You're also just high if you don't take Rose for the 12th pick.
Okay, you got one more?
Yeah. Thunder. Would you trade Kevin Durant for the number 1 pick?
What?
You can't do it. You can't.
I can't do it.
You can't do it if you're the Thunder.
No.
He's injured. He is.
I need
one. Like if you give me a hip situation this season, then I'll listen to your phone call.
I enjoyed that.
So do the kids.
I hope so.
The kids in Greece and Germany were thinking about you.
SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know we're doing this J.R. Smith thing here for a second, but if you don't mind, I'd like to do a minute or two to give our guy, Outsider Mike, an official happy birthday. I think we're tough on him in the beginning of the show because he's just going to turn it into his own birthday festival. Start playing birthday rejoins, and you and I are grumpy people.
Yes.
And we're like, who checked with us? No one. And then, did you get that vibe at the beginning of the show, Outsider? Because this is a day to celebrate you, and we should. Now we've loosened up here a bit. I want to apologize at least for myself.
All right, I feel the love in the air.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go down and I'm going to get me some crackers because that's what I do. And anything you want.
Taco?
Yeah, he loves Choco Taco.
Do you want a Choco Taco?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have another gift for you.
Done.
It's kind of a choose-your-own-adventure gift.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, don't make me choose between.
Yes.
Oh,
you can have the Ryen Russillo T-shirt from our guys at Dollar Shave Club.
Or you can have the Hanson Van Pelt model.
And you can only have one. And you must decide.
I hate these hot water questions.
I know. You're right in there. The temperature's going up as we speak.
Can I decide at the end of the show?
I don't know, man.
It's not how things work, man. People right now in their car, they're sitting, they got a sales meeting, they're late. The sales meeting started at 2:15, but they're waiting right now to find out who you pick. You know what I mean? Like, you got to pay that off.
That guy's going to make up something about a debit card won't go through.
Yeah, man, something happened out there at the gate. The security guy.
I'll take the Russillo one, because
yeah, there you go.
Because it's got some hair on it, at least. And it doesn't look like you now, so I could at least play it off that that's me, like in an earlier day.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense, but you can have it, and I'm going to get you.
Doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you a Choco Taco, and that's from me to you. Happy birthday.
No, you don't want to give it to me. You want to keep it now.
No, I definitely don't want to keep it. What I'm saying is the wrong call because if you're out on a Friday in the Southern Connecticut area with a Van Pelt head on your torso, that's a conversation starter. If you get me on it, it's like is that Gosling when he was doing all those movies about the military? I look a little rough around the edges of my shirt.
All right, then I'll take the Van Pelt shirt.
You made your pick already. This is going to the highest bidder. So far, $5 has been offered up. A crisp $5 has been offered. So J.R. Smith goes berserk last night, 8 of 12 from 3, 28 points.
You love it. How much do you love when a guy does that last night?
A lot. I love it because we were having this conversation before the show. How many guys are there like him that are capable? Look, there's a lot of guys that like to get shots up. Okay, there's a lot of guys, heists they used to call him back in the day. Jamal Crawford's not afraid. He was 6 of 18 in that elimination game, an enthusiastic volume shooter. And Smith is unafraid, man. And to the point about last night's shots and the shot selection, a lot of the shots were indefensible because they were so well defended, but that's actually what Brian Windhorst said he prefers.
He said, I don't like taking open shots. I'd much rather take contested shots because there's less pressure because people expect you to make open shots. It's refreshing in its honesty, very strange. And just it all goes into what I call the J.R. Smith experience. When you have J.R. Smith, you sign up for the reality that he can go 8 for 12 on threes, and the next game, go 1 for 12. That's just part of the deal.
And LeBron James afterwards was asked about when they brought him in at the beginning of the calendar year, and he told Mark Schwartz, I was good with it. You get him here, and I'll take care of him.
You always just want to try to give someone an opportunity. With the talent this guy presents, I knew the man he was, and I didn't really care about what everybody else thought about him. Our front office, they have the last say-so. And for me, when they made it and saying that they was going to do it, and I was definitely all for it.
He's a 29-year-old. He was a Sixth Man of the Year in 2013, and he said when he got to Cleveland that it's better because there's nothing except basketball. No going out, no late nights, video games, basketball, and basketball.
I don't know what to do with this because, the guy has deserved almost all the criticism that he's received, right? So LeBron saying, quote, get him here, I'll take care of it. Quote, I knew the man, and I know who he is, and I don't really care about what everybody else thought of him. Well, sometimes the perception isn't accurate, but for J.R. Smith, he's brought a lot of the doubt and criticism of himself upon himself.
It wasn't invented.
Right. This is not an unfair story that we've been telling about this guy for such a long time. And I'll tell you right now, the Cavs would have done the Shumpert deal. They probably would have preferred not taking on J.R. Smith $6 million next year. But that was part of the deal.
And that's the conundrum with this guy. For the baggage that he drags behind him, he is still capable in these bursts of being as explosive a scorer. It's 65-63. And Smith scores 14 of the next 17 points, and 2 of those 17 were on an alley-oop that he threw that had LeBron roaring off the bench, and a 2-point lead turned into a 15-point lead. And that happened over the course of about 6 game minutes. That's what he did. LeBron scored 31, but Smith's the guy that was the fuel in that engine last night. So you bring him over knowing that it's something of a roll of the dice, and the J.R. Smith experience is one where you just wonder, is the next game the game where he shoots it 22 times and misses, 18?
I remember watching him it was the McDonald's game, right? 2004?
That sounds right.
And here was this kid out of high school, and he was supposed to go to North Carolina, and he was pulling up from 30 feet and hitting them, and then he had a 40-inch vert. And you're going, who is this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. And I remember, being really into draft then, and I just kind of started the career. And you're calling anybody that will even talk to you, and you're going, when you really think about the physical skills and the range, there just aren't a lot of guys like this. Now, he ends up going 18th overall, and yet the career has been this thing. Or at times you go, hey, he's in New York, he's Sixth Man of the Year, he's kind of figured this thing out. He's had some off-the-court stuff that's been really all over the place, and some of it's awful. And then he goes to Cleveland, and it's funny, like you hit some shots, and then you hear these quotes from guys last night as if none of that stuff ever happened. And you go, no, that's the thing. That's I guess the problem with really identifying who he is and how you feel about him. Because there are stretches where anybody that's watched Knicks games, when it was bad, it's awful. And yet he's the one going, oh, another man's trash is a trophy, here and here. And you go, you didn't have any interest in being there. You didn't want to be there, and they hooked you up by getting you out of there, even though the money that you're owed next year. So they are really lucky to have him. considering all the things that have happened.
Well, and the Kyrie injury, and
exactly.
the fact that he made it, he aggravated his tendonitis in his knee is the report.
So I'm not trying to do let's all balance everything out here and remember who he really is, but his shooting is the best example, like you just said. When it is on, this isn't really who he is, and when he's completely off, that's not really who he is either.
True. And the thing it's the mentality of a shooter, and it's to a degree unique in sports because it requires absolute arrogance, and it's arrogance that doesn't waver with he's not outcome based. If he makes 3 or 4 in a row, he's good. If he misses 3 or 4 in a row, the 5th one's going in, and it's also going up.
The best way to do this, though, is seriously, if he's on your team, your team just trades for J.R. Smith, your reaction is?
You know that it's complicated. You know that you're taking on a guy that's capable of this. How good's your good? Well, his good is he's as capable of burning white hot as anybody in the league. But you also know that you're signing up for some potholes. Are you willing to deal with that?
And he really won the game last night. I mean, he won you game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals because despite LeBron's numbers, I'll never figure out what he was doing at the end. And think about that. The most ISO possessions in a game this year, the most individual ISO possessions by LeBron in any game for any player in the playoffs this year. And as smart as LeBron is, I don't know how everyone in the arena and everybody at home watching that can go, why would LeBron keep running this terrible, terrible offense? Because nobody else is doing it except him. That's not a play call. That's not a lack of a play call from Blatt. That appears to be what LeBron James wants to do in that spot. And it doesn't make any sense for a player that's not just so gifted as a player, but a guy that understands the game so well.
I think the second point is the most important. It's that a guy who has such an IQ and feel for the moment and an understanding of the moment. It was like the game where he said, he had to look at the tape to realize he only shot 2 times in that game. Which game did they lose against?
Chicago,
yeah,
game 1?
Game 1.
Right.
He only shot twice. Like, he had to look at the tape to figure that out. He shouldn't have to look at the tape to figure out he was bad in the 4th quarter. But J.R. Smith's, he's something else.
Earlier today on SVP and Russillo.
Birthday update. No Choco Taco. I bought Outsider a sundae and a bomb pop. And you know what he says to me, Ryan?
What do you say, Scott?
Worst birthday ever. Because they didn't have a Choco Taco. Because the sundae is difficult for him to eat. But he's still looking at it right now. He's eyeballing it. He's going to figure out how to wreck that thing.
Oh, it's the spoon, too. You got me that flimsy spoon made out of, balsa wood.
Hey, buddy, give it away then. You know what? We've got 2 options here. One is you can complain about your free birthday gifts, or you can give them away. How about that?
Wilbon's there.
How about that? How about after that little rant where I gave him a hey, if you get a hey buddy, and my giveaway, my tell is, you know what? If I hit you with a, hey, you know what? I'm getting ready to tell you something that I'm angry. So I gave him a you know what, and then he gave me a you know what.
Wilbon's there.
That was him telling me, shut up and take your caller on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. That's what happened there.
I love that drop. Love
Wilbon's there.
Just whenever there's just the dead, awkward silence after some kind of confrontation.
It is dismissive. The tone is condescending. It's, hey, you failed with the ice cream, which I then made good on. Brought him a Choco Taco, which I assume he ate and enjoyed. I don't know. I haven't been told thanks.
You just admitted that you got me 2 terrible birthday presents, and you're mad at me for being upset about it.
Did you get a Choco Taco?
Eventually, but, it's supposed to be the thought that counts, and you should have said, I'll get you a Choco Taco if it's presented right in front of me and I don't have to look for it.
We're done. We're done here.
What a guy today. You're taking the Van Pelt T-shirt, right, though? We agreed on that, even though you picked mine. You didn't want it. You want his. His T-shirt's going to get you further in life.
I'm not complaining about it. I'll take whatever I can get. Keep the taste down.
Marcus is trying to steal one of mine. But I got a lot of siblings, and they're going to love the Ryen shirts. So,
yeah, those are coveted items. Also, you said this.
Another man's trash is a trophy.
Isn't it one man's trash is another man's treasure, I've always heard?
Right, but what I was referencing specifically was J.R. Smith's meme about the Knicks. So I don't know that he got it right. So even though everybody thinks I screwed it up, I think what I was doing was referencing what he did. But I don't know.
That's all good.
I'm not prepped I'm not prepped yet.
I don't really have time to do the thing about questions. I don't have any questions. I'm asking myself a question. That's what am I going to do about Outsider Mike? I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I am with that.
You guys, I'm not being condescending. Like yesterday, you thought I was trying to tell you to wrap it up, and I was just trying to describe Bartolo Colon's hair as being curly.
He got an infield hit last night.
Yeah.
And then got just torched.
There.
It was, but just watching him not run.
But then he gave up 6 runs the next inning because he had to run the bases for a half inning.
Exhaustion set in.
Actually, J.R. Smith had it right. I don't know why I quoted it wrong. So
Another man's
Smith.
trash is a trophy.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.